Hi, my name is Georgia Goodman, and the health resource that I have chosen to speak about today is the Genderbread Person. So here's the resource's home web page. If I scroll down a little, it'll show me a bit of information, and to the side here is a poster. Down here are the elements that the students will be learning about, with sentences describing what each topic is about, and to the side here are different versions of the posters. The strand that I have chosen to link this resource to is personal, social, and community health. When I look at the goals and objectives, I can see that the students will be learning about the LGBTQ community, as well as distinguishing the differences between the four elements and then connecting their own personal understandings with the elements. Now, if I'm just looking at the words that have been highlighted in yellow, this is my linking to my chosen focus area of mental health and well-being, and relationships and sexuality. Now, if I flick over to the HPE structure of Australian curriculum and scroll down to the focus areas, I have mental health and well-being and relationships and sexuality. I have highlighted that this resource can relate to the impact of physical, social, spiritual, and emotional health on well-being, as you can talk with students what might be some challenges that arise if people don't suit the normal gender type. Moving down to relationships and sexuality, I've highlighted changing identities and the factors that influence them, including personal, cultural, gender, and sexual identities. This focus area in particular relates to what the students will be doing when plotting themselves on the timelines within the posters. While selecting a content description, I had two options. My first option was to investigate resources and strategies to manage changes and transitions associated with puberty. However, after discussing with peers in the tutorial, I decided that the most relevant content description would be the one that I've put in the table. Now focusing on the green highlighting, it demonstrates throughout the lesson where the LGBTQ is a representation of many identities and how this can influence people's lives. People create certain identities and inform worldviews about the LGBTQ community, labeling them as different words such as lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and queer. This lesson states that there are many times that they are not referring to gender identity or trans issues, but instead referring to sexuality, meaning that the thinking process must go further than the labels that society gives this community. The decision I came to in order to change the selected content description was because the resource speaks a lot about how people have different identities and allows students to plot themselves on the timeline to represent varying degrees of alignment with the traditional binary elements of each aspect of gender, resulting in infinite possibilities of gender for a person. I will now link the resource to two of the Australian curriculum HPE propositions, the first one being strength-based approach. So the resource of Genderbread Person equips students with the knowledge and understanding of gender, however does not touch on the skills that the students need to have to live harmoniously with another. Wilson Nelson's talk from ACHPER Queensland mentions that a strength-based approach is focusing on the individual within the community context rather than just the individual themselves. The resource exposes students to different terms rather than focusing on the risks that people face if they do not match these particular stereotypes that society puts them in. This resource would be a great introduction for those students who have trouble understanding that everybody is not the same, that girls can be more masculine just as men can be feminine. I've switched over now to the poster activity. Students have to plot themselves on where they sit on this line. Once students have done this, they can compare with their classmates on where everybody sits. This will expose the students to an understanding that no two people will be placed on the line exactly the same. I think that this is such an important concept to show to the students, to explain to them that it really doesn't matter where you sit because everyone is different and it does not define your gender. Linking to physical education, this could really assist in demonstrating to students that it is okay to play different sports that aren't originally associated with your gender. This particular topic is quite touchy still in the world, as there are mixed views on gender and sexuality. Some students may refuse to participate due to their beliefs. It would be a good idea to inform parents what you will be educating their children about and the reasons why you are doing it. A peer mentioned that another barrier could be that some students may not be able to understand that different genders can have different traits. They don't have to all be the same. The reading by McQuaig Coincidence and McDonald states that often at the beginning of evaluations of health is started with the assumptions of normality. Some students' assumptions would be that if a person has short hair, this means that they are a boy, and if they have long hair, then they are a girl. I think that the HPE proposition of strength-based approach could make improvements in this resource in order to be more successful in educating the students on the topic of gender. While discussing with my peers, it was pointed out that although this proposition is quite strong in this resource and equips students with the understanding and knowledge of gender, it does not equip students with the skills that the students require to embrace gender positively. The resource often speaks about how gay people are labelled as a stereotype, which may have an effect on their mental health. A strategy would be to give the students examples of gay, bisexual celebrities and showing their achievements. You could also compare these celebrities to heterosexual celebrities for the students themselves to show the diversity of different people. This would be a great opportunity to show students that people from different places are most likely to be placed differently on the genderbread person poster as they are impacted differently by their environment. The next HPE proposition is health literacy, which the genderbread person contains a lot of. The whole resource itself is providing students with the ability to access and understand to use the health information about gender in order to promote and maintain health and well-being. The website uses very simple language and really breaks down the different concepts that can be very difficult to grasp. As well as providing information, this resource uses pictures and diagrams for students to be able to identify different elements. As you can see on the poster, each element has a symbol in which students can identify it with. Attraction has a heart, and students are able to identify that this element is the one about sexuality compared to gender, as it is different to the other three. This resource is equipping students with the knowledge in order to be able to live harmoniously with others. In health literacy, there are 3 dimensions, and as this resource relates directly to the interactive dimension, as the students require more advanced knowledge, understanding, and skills to actively and independently engage with a health issue. If we look back at the content description that I have chosen, it is asking students to examine how identities are influenced by people and places. A peer mentioned that my content description matched perfectly with the interactive dimension, as it was making the students not only consider their own identities, but look at the other people's identities and how they are influenced by their surroundings. The critical literacy skills that this resource provides is reading, accessing technology, and understanding health information. The Genderbread Person resource is an age-appropriate document that allows students to understand the difficult concepts of gender. It promotes health by using a strength-based approach and allowing students to understand an individual within a context and not just by themselves. It allows students to compare with other students to realize that they're all different, and it didn't really make a difference to where they plotted themselves on the line, as no person has the same identity. Although it does not equip students with the skills to embrace the different identities, but more so informing them that the people are labelled and stereotyped. A way to improve this is to show the students examples of different celebrities that are gay, bisexual, or heterosexual. Health literacy was another way that this resource promoted health. The resource provided a very simple way of understanding gender and identity, even though this topic can be very difficult to grasp. The resource is engaging and is a great resource for an introductory lesson to the topic. However, a more interactive resource would be more ideal in order to keep the children engaged over a long period of time.